All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is you're watching. So today I am going to walk you through my process on how I created my quote poster or your music poster, whichever you decide to do. So I'm going to create a new project and I'm going to name it, I'm actually just going to name it music poster. We'll just be very generic with this name. I'm going to change my size to 11 inches by 17 inches and the DPI will be 300 and I will hit create. All right, so now I have a nice blank canvas. So what I want to do first is change the background because I've already sketched out my ideas on paper. I know what I want, how I want it to look. I've already gone through my fonts and I've already chosen a font that I want to use. So what I want to do is I want to change the color of my background. So what I'm going to do is click on my paint bucket tool. So it's right here and I'm going to click on paint bucket and I've already chosen a color. Oops. So it's going to be the top one. This is your foreground color or whatever is in the front. I'm going to choose this nice red color, hit OK, and then I'm going to drop the paint bucket onto my artboard. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my ruler. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So you're going to go, as a designer, it's important to see how you're going to lay everything out, and having a grid available is very helpful. It helps you with straight lines. It helps you organize your text a little bit better and your objects a little bit better. So I'm going to go to view and I'm going to show my rulers. So I'm going to click on rulers. The shortcut is Control R. When you first open Photopea, it's set to pixels. So what you want to do is change it to inches. So I'm going to right click on the ruler itself and just click on inches, and this will change it. The next thing I'm going to do is drag out some guidelines for me. So what you want to do is click on your ruler and drag with your mouse, and it's going to create this blue line. It may be a different color, it may be fuchsia or pink, just depending on how you set it up. You can change these colors in Photoshop. I'm pretty sure you should be able to change them in Photopea as well. So these guidelines are going to tell me where to put my text. And again, I've already sketched out my idea on paper, so I kind of already have an idea of where I want them. I'm just going to eyeball it. So it's about, it's looking about 2 inches around each side. Okay, you can eyeball it, or if you'd like to be more precise, you can. So if you look right here, I'm going to go to my move tool. To move them, if I need to arrange them, I'm going to move it right up to that 2-inch mark. So this is 2 inches from the bottom. So 15 inches and then 16 inches. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is go to my type tool. I know exactly what I want to write. I know exactly the font I want to use because I've already chosen it. So I'm going to just type in the font and I'm going to change it because I know that I want it to be nice and thick. And then I'm going to click one time right here. So right now the font is still pretty small, so I actually know that I need to change it. So I'm going to just bump it up really big because I want it to be nice and large. So I'm going to just start typing. Oops, actually I need this to be white and I want my fonts to be all capital. And I actually need to resize the top because I don't want that one to be that big. I want it to actually fit within this space. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move this up to where I want it, and I'm going to resize it. Let's go about that large. So I'm fitting it within these guidelines, okay? That is how I want to place my text. I'm going to go to the next line. So I'm not going to keep typing and hit enter to go to the next line. I'm actually going to create a new layer for every line of text I do because I want every line of text to be able to be editable on its own. So this one, I want it to be larger than the top line. Okay, so to do that, I am going to stretch it out. All right, and then I'm going to continue this process with each line of text that I have. So I don't want it to be any shorter than line above, I just want it to fit within this space. So I'm just going to squish it up a little bit. And it's not going to look too squishy, so it's good. If you were using a different font, then it might be a little bit smaller. So this one, I'm going to start typing, and then I'm going to actually reduce it down to make it match this size, because I have a couple words to write in this one, but I want it to be the same height. So there we go. Now I can continue typing on this. But I still need to squish it in a little bit. Okay, so, and I have 2 more lines. So I'm going to squish it out. So I'm going to kind of match it up to what this line of text is. Place it here. And one more, and then I do need to type out the author as well. Well, that one was pretty close. And then the author. So with the author, I'm going to actually make this pretty small, much smaller than what I have, and I want it to be a nice thin font. Oops. All right, so let's undo that. So I'm going to go back. Okay. And then go to my text tool and click here. So change my font size and change the weight of my font. Okay, so it's still pretty big and thick. So what I'm going to do is actually shrink it down some more because I want it to be much smaller than that. It looks like it didn't take. All right, so there we go. So now I have every line of text on a separate line. Okay, and it's all laid out how I want it. So what I'm going to do is actually group all of these layers of text into one file, right? So I'm going to, the first layer, the top layer is selected. I'm going to scroll down, hold the shift key and click on the last layer, and this will select everything. And then I'm going to click on the folder, and it's going to place all of my text inside the folder, and I'm just going to rename it text. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is make a copy of my text, because I already have an idea of what I want to do. So I can either drag it to this little sticky note, I can right click and go duplicate layer, or I can do Control J and it will make a copy. So I have a copy right here. So what I'm going to do is actually drag this copy layer below my original layer. Okay, so now that I've moved my layer below, I am actually going to change the color of my bottom layer text to black, because I want this to actually be a drop shadow layer. All right, so with it changed, if I hide this first layer, you can see that my second layer is black. I could do an effects layer on this, but I don't think it's going to go far enough out behind my text. I want to offset it just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is click back on this layer, go to my move tool, and just scoot it over just slightly and bring it down just a little bit. Okay, so I've now made a drop shadow, or a fake drop shadow. I'm going to bring it down just a little. I'm actually using my arrow tool on my keyboard because it moves a little bit less than if I were to use my mouse. I think I have more control. It takes more time to do it that way, but that's okay. All right, so I actually want to duplicate that drop shadow that I just created. because I want to move it out even more. So I made another copy, and I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm just going to ever so slightly move it over and drop it down just a few more clicks. Now you can see that it's shifting, and I'm going to repeat this process a couple times. Okay, now that I have done this 4 times and I've shifted it over, what I'm going to do is select all of these copy layers that I have, and I'm just going to use my alignment tool, which is up here, to align them equally, both vertically and horizontally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. This is going to make equal gaps between both vertical and horizontal. Okay, so it'll align it equally. The distance between each layer will be the same. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is actually blur this out a little bit. So what I want to do, they're all selected still. So I'll click on the first layer, click on the last layer, and I'm going to go to the filter gallery up here. And oops, before I do this, I actually think I need to rasterize these layers. Let me see. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this. Let's see. Let's try it this way. Blur, Gaussian blur. Okay, so it's not going to be editable. So what I have to do is actually convert it to a smart object. So I'm going to just click on smart object, and hopefully this will work. Okay, so what this does is it makes it a vector layer or smaller files, so I can actually like edit the file. So now with it converted to a smart object, let's see. All right, let me try to do it now. So I'm going to select all of them, and then I'm going to go to filter and then blur, Gaussian blur. And with the preview button checked, I'm just going to bring this up. This is going to give me a slight blur on my shadow. Obviously, I don't want my drop shadow to be clear. So this is just replicating what what the effects layer does in Photopea down here. All right, so now what I want to do is lower the opacity so it's lower in, it's not so harsh. Let's see, did that work? Yeah, that worked. That looks actually pretty good. I think I'm digging it. So now the last couple things I'm going to do, now that my text is done, I'm actually going to put these all in. Oh, you know what? It did not, I was not able to, 34, did it blur everything or did it only blur that one layer? Let's check it out quick. I think it may have only blurred this one layer right here. Yeah, it did. So I'm just going to blur the rest of them. And it may take a minute for me because I have 4 layers selected, so Photopea's taken some time to process it. All right, I just wanted to make sure everything was blurred. And I don't know if it's even working right. I think I may have to do it one at a time, which is a bummer. So I'm going to pause it while I get that done. Okay, what I ended up doing is opening up my filters again and dropping it back down to 50. I noticed that the 200 was way too strong. So I want it to be very subtle, right? So it did adjust the blur. It made it a little bit more subtle. And then I'm going to bump up the opacity just a little bit. All right, there we go. So now I want to put, they're all selected, and I'm going to put them in a folder. And I'm going to name this blur. It's important to remember to name your layers. I know it can be a pain at first when you're starting to learn all of this, but as you develop your skills, you're going to learn that you're going to go back to certain layers and you're going to be like, what did I do to that layer? Or what is the name of that layer that I'm looking for? And it's really important. It helps you locate what you're looking for a little bit quicker. So you guys are finding that you're spending a lot of time in the program. And as a designer, time is money. And the less time you can spend on the computer is more time you can be out there hustling, talking to people about your work, or even spending time with your family, right? Okay, so I like my text. I love my blur. What I want to do now is give it a little bit more design. So I already have it again sketched out. I want to make a white line going from here and down, and then I'm going to fill this bottom empty space in with a white rectangle. So I'm going to go to my line tool and I'm going to change the fill color to white. Oops. So I'm going to go on white. I'm just going to add a stroke as well and make that white. So I'm going to make the stroke very small though. I'm going to put it like 0.5. Okay. So what I'm going to do is use this line right here, my guide, as a guide to draw out my line. So if I click and hold shift, it's going to give me a straight line, and I'm going to let go. And I have a feeling, I'm going to turn my guides off really quick. So I'm going to go to view and I'm going to go to show, and then I'll click on guide. The shortcut is control and the semicolon. Okay, so I need to actually make it a little bit wider. It's kind of hard to see, and it looks like actually looks like these colors black, and I'm not sure what's going on. So let me just adjust this a little bit so I can see what is going on with my stroke. Okay, so I think, or my line, I think it's because my stroke is so small. When you draw out a line segment, it actually gives you a stroke. Yeah, a stroke. It doesn't give you a box. So if I wanted a box, I would actually draw out a rectangle. All right, there we go. So now I want to stretch it out this way just a little bit more. I want to make it go a little beyond that. And then I'm going to draw out a second. Actually, I'm going to copy this one and just rotate it. So I'm going to go Control C, Control V. Actually, I'm going to make a copy because it's telling me I didn't give it permission, and I don't have time for that right now. So I'm going to zoom in and just rotate this. All right, so I zoomed in and I was able to rotate that line. I just made a copy of it and I rotated it. I want to actually stretch it out a little bit. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just stretch. So you got to be careful because with Photopea, it actually stretched out. It made my line fatter. I just want to make sure everything is aligned still. Okay, so my line segments are touching right here, which is cool. I love how that looks. I'm already liking how this is looking. So what I'm going to do now is fill this part in right here with a border. So it's kind of looking like a book cover is what I'm going for. And I really like that with this saying, every great design begins with an even better story. So this could be a title for a book, right? This could be a graphic design book. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll write a graphic design book. But for right now, I will just continue to teach. So I'm going to draw out a rectangle. And I love it. It's perfect. I don't know. The only thing I'm thinking is maybe shift this down. My typography maybe, or center. Or, yeah, I think I like that. I think I'm digging it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save it. I like it. It's very simple yet effective. It tells the story with my type. I don't want my typography to distract from my words. I did use two different font styles, remember, so I used the that one Brianna type, but I used a heavyweight and a thinner weight. So that is two styles. And I used three colors. So in my design, I have red, white, and black. So that's three colors. And it tells a story. Okay, so I know you guys are still learning to use these tools, and I'm not expecting professional results right now, but if I get it, hey, that's even better. I'm going to save it as a JPEG file and turn it into Classroom if I were you. But yeah, so have fun with this. Again, I'm not expecting super professional results, but I want to see what you have learned over the last 2 weeks with your typography and the different little tools that we've been learning.